With New Mexico taking the first step into phase 1B of vaccinations, and again, that means people over age 75 and those 16 and older if they have a pre-existing conditions. It seems we're starting to turn the corner, or at least we can see the corner from here. That means something. You just heard about the difference that makes for first-line medical workers who have been battling this day in and day out since last March. And Kathy McGill, what kind of difference have you seen it make among people you know? And I want to know specifically trust in the African American community that the vaccine is safe and effective. What's the feedback you're getting?
The jury's still out in the community about people who are willing to take the vaccine because of the historical distrust of vaccines that come from the government and not understanding perhaps why it's necessary right now for us to be the first adopters. But there are a lot of people, and I think the opinions are varied in the community. I signed up to register to get a vaccine today, and while my number hasn't come up yet, when it does come up, I'm going to take it. But I understand how people want more information, and I think that we need to do a better job of getting information about the efficacy of it and sort of, combating the disinformation about, anecdotal things that people hear about people who've had bad reactions to the vaccine. So I'm hoping that we're able to do more of an education campaign, but there's varied responses in the Black community as in all communities about whether or not we can really trust this because of all the misinformation that's out there.
Right. Hey, Merritt, it's interesting, this idea about equitable distribution. People are going to be people. And there were reports last week that event codes were being unfairly shared with family members and friends, and people were sharing stories about cutting in line and all this other stuff going on. I mean, people are just going to be people. Your sense of the rollout and how we can get our arms around this and get everybody vaccinated, given that people are going to do what they're going to do. What's your sense on that?
I don't know. There's only so much vaccine. I don't see I don't see too many ways to game the system. You go in with a name and a birth date. I've registered my entire family. So we have an 87-year-old and two 50-somethings. I mean, my mom is pretty good with makeup, but I'm pretty sure if I try and go in as her, people are going to figure it out.
Interesting. I'm with you. I'm with you. They'll figure it out.
Yeah, I don't think it's. I just don't think there's enough cheating going on to be too worried about it. Will there be some?
Well, the state says they're on top of it now. The state says they're on to it. So
I think that's enough of a risk to be concerned about. I think the main thing is to make sure that the distribution plan is such that we make sure that everyone is able to get the second dose with the stuff we have, and just that level of planning and logistics. That's my primary concern, rather than I'm more concerned about the distribution planning end rather than the consumer end and who might be sketchy about it.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Hey, Dave, interesting announcement the other day that the UNM announced that the pit will be available for vaccinations, for mass vaccinations. Shouldn't leave that word out. We're talking 1,600 people a day starting next Tuesday, then more than 3,000 a day 3 weeks later. I guess my question is this, phase 1B, especially the underlying conditions. We're talking about a huge group of people here, upwards of 500,000 in some reports here in New Mexico. So does that change things on our vaccination rollout? Do we have to lead into this?
Let's go back one little thing. So when after the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor, Franklin Roosevelt stood up in front of the country and said, we are really caught unawares here, and we need to build 50,000 airplanes to combat what's coming. And, every expert said that's not possible. We can't do it. Yet here we are. I think we need leadership. I think we're going to get that leadership with the new administration coming. The American people will do very well if they're told what to do, if we have good leadership. And I think we're starting to see we're just about to hit critical mass. We're going to get a huge amount of vaccinations happening. People have questions and people are worried. Yet, I had a mother who lived through the polio epidemic. She could not wait to get us those vaccinations every year. And I think it's important to recognize that's where we need to go. But we need leadership at the state and at the federal level to get there. And I think we're going to get it.
Interesting stuff there. Dan McDan. A holiday uptick. We've heard about this, the Christmas season, of course. We're now just getting into the window where we should see some impact. Any concerns?
Yeah, there was pretty sharp growth early this year. After maybe about 2 weeks after Christmas, there was pretty sharp growth, and we have seen an uptick in cases. Over the last few days, there's been kind of a leveling off. So it could be that that we've seen the extent of the bump, but it's hard to know. We're also not 2 weeks out, or we're just approaching 2 weeks from New Year's Eve. So so we might start to see a bump from that also. But it looks like for the most part we're pretty stable, but at a high case level. We're not anywhere near the state's reopening goals. So cases are going to have to come down substantially before we start to get to that.
This week, I forgot the county, but somebody went green this week, if I'm not mistaken. First time in, since this new system. Kathy McGill, we also have the first case of the more contagious strain out of the UK has landed in New Mexico, literally, as somebody that traveled over there. Does this help, redouble the effort, so to speak? Does this scary new strain make people say, all right, the mask thing's more important than ever now, distance, all that kind of thing, or is it just another data point for people?
No, I think people are, have a heightened concern about a new strain, a new variant of the virus. And, I think the people that I'm talking to are redoubling their efforts to stay shelter in place if they can and to follow the protocols. So, yeah, there's a heightened awareness and it's getting closer, I think, as the virus continues to spread. I know that I have people in my close circle who have been infected with the virus and people that I know who have lost their battle. Yep. And so it makes it very personally something that I'm looking at, and I think a lot of people are in that same situation.
I hear that. I'm still mourning. One of the great friends of Albuquerque, DZ Chavez, passed away from COVID about a month and a half ago. I'm still working my way through that one, that's for sure. Let's talk schools for a minute. Merritt, Phase 1B also includes frontline workers unable to work remotely, and teachers are part of that group as well. Do you think teachers and students will be able to get back into the classroom, obviously before the end of the year?
There are certain teachers and educational employees who are already in the classroom. Mm-hmm. So that has to happen. A family member of mine works with special needs children who really have to be in a classroom environment. So given the difficulty of maintaining social distancing protocols with that specific student population, it's absolutely vital. Mm-hmm. Whether that will get teachers and students back in the classroom quickly, it certainly won't happen, I don't think, this school year, just given the overall conservative mindset of this state. I mean, let's remember New Mexico is one of the most, has among the strictest requirements in the nation and has not let up and has never really reopened since March. Mm-hmm. So I think it highly unlikely that students will be back in the classroom in the 2021 school year.
Dan, let me ask you to pick up on that too, or as well. Do I have it right that the governor is leaving these choices to individual school districts and the folks that run them, or is this going to be sort of an edict statewide as things go along?
I think at this point it's county by county, and it depends on what statistical information there is on the spread and the prevalence of the virus. The governor has indicated that she wants to look more closely at getting schools reopened this semester. But again, her the power is divided a bit between school districts and the public education department. I do think, one of the key things for reopening schools is just going to be the spread of the virus. And we're kind of have this race between getting the vaccine out to people, hopefully before this new, more transmissible strain of the virus starts to circulate.
I think you're right. It's all going to be depending on what the numbers show at that time. As Merritt said, maybe 2021 might not happen. We're out of time. We'll take a quick break to reset, then be back to talk about what's ahead for Republicans and conservatives after the stunning final weeks of the Trump presidency.